So I was talking to one of my students about a month ago, and they were explaining to me all the teachers that they have worked with. And one of the things that was difficult for them is working with a teacher that doesn't allow you to ask questions or be curious, that it kind of stunts their own development and how they step into understanding their psychic abilities and understanding and building their mediumship. And one of the things that drove me years ago to become a teacher was being inspired by one of my favorite teachers, Tony Stockwell. I remember working with him a couple different times, and one of the last times I was taught by Tony was in Bedford, New Hampshire, and he was teaching. I think it's at the Moth and Moon Studio. I'm not sure if they're still there. Great center, and he taught a 3-day mediumship level 2 class. And I remember going to the weekend and met some really phenomenal people. And by the last day, it was Sunday, I ended up leaving the class about an hour after I arrived. They were working on some practice exercises and they were doing things. And when I was watching Tony teach all weekend, I just kept getting this nudge, this urge. I didn't know what it was, but I didn't want to be at the class, but I wanted to be around Tony, but I wanted to do something else. And I really sat with that. And I left the class early that weekend, and I went to my studio and I started writing my own curriculum to teach. And one of the things around that was the way that Tony approaches his students when teaching around psychic abilities and mediumship. And what he does is he allows students to ask questions. He allows his students to be curious. I find Tony Stockwell is one of those teachers that allows himself to let the students, lead the class sometimes. Like, what are your thoughts? Because we don't have all the answers. And especially when we're looking around the development of mediumship and psychic abilities, there are so many things that we can't answer because the teacher can teach the class and teach the students, but the student is such a unique individual energy that will bring that fingerprint to their mediumship, their psychic work. And that is what should be encouraged. Yes, there can be some protocols about how we do the foundations of mediumship and how we step into understanding our psychic awareness. But we also have to allow the person to step into being who they are. Because a big part of how I step into my work is being Anne. An example of that is I went to a training years ago, well, like probably 13, 14 years ago, and really well-known psychic medium teacher. He's amazing. He's not Tony Stockwell, but he's another teacher. And there was about 50 of us. And in the class, the teacher had walked around and came up to me because I was giving a reading. My eyes were closed. And he tapped on my shoulder. He says, "Anne, I need you to open your eyes to connect." And so because I looked up to him, and I still do to this day, I was like, okay, I've got to do that. I've got to open my eyes and to connect better, to have better rapport with the sitter. I understand that. But something didn't sit right with me. And I think when I look back at that and when I know myself, that what that teacher needed me to do wasn't what I needed to do for my mediumship and for my psychic work. And we can really get caught up in what our teachers want us to do without really listening to what it is that you need. So I took that advice and it stunted me a bit. I couldn't move through that where I knew I was blending and really connecting into my abilities and blending with spirit when my eyes are closed sometimes. And so to this day, I will close my eyes sometimes. And so what I took away from that is that I had to put myself into my students' shoes, and I can't possibly know how they will connect or work because I am not them, in encouraging them and allowing them to step into and create their mediumship. And giving an outline and giving some foundational tools is one thing, but it's allowing them to step into themselves. And I think it also, it takes us working with different teachers because we need that experience to figure out what we want and what we don't, how we want to show up in this work and how we don't. And the teachers that may not be as helpful for us are probably the ones that can teach us even more because it allows us to get uncomfortable and it allows us to push through sometimes, but also allows us to let us know what we want to do and what we don't when it comes to this work in developing and progressing. So if you're out there learning in this field around psychic development and mediumship, work with many teachers. Um, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And I say this to all of my students. And, the greatest teachers out there will create great teachers. That's the whole objective of teaching, is that we create teachers that go on to teach us, that I am constantly learning from my students in what they're going to show me and how they develop. Because what a class is all about is allowing what you know and sharing that with your students and allowing them to develop and create even more in their environment and more in their process, becoming who they are and encouraging that. It's not about, it's less about me showing my students, my mediumship or how I psychically connect, and more about showing them the process internally so I can let them know what's going on inside of my mind, inside of my body, so they have something to relate to as they start to get their sensations, their indications, and their blending. What's happening during that process. And it's a process where we are learning from one another. Yes, I'm teaching the class, but I'm learning so much from you. And that's so important. So see many teachers, figure out how you work. Don't be discouraged by the teachers that you may not resonate with, and find the teachers that you do and create your own method in the way that you show up and honor that and own that. It's an incredible process, incredible journey. And work with the people that you feel connected with. Push yourself, and know that we only grow in that place of getting uncomfortable and working with several teachers, several people. Just wanted to share a little bit about finding the right teacher and knowing when it's okay to hold on to the information and the teachings and to let go of the things that don't resonate, to find your journey, to be on your path. Thinking about you. Thanks for being here.